People, and happy Sunday. Today's a good day. Actually, every day is a good day, right? So anyway, welcome to my live. I'm Sissy, and life coach and motivation speaker. Today I'll be speaking about the human condition and human suffering. Now, we as humans have inflicted a lot of suffering within ourselves, in our society, sometimes like wars, violence. You get like suffering that's you experiencing from the outside, and then you have suffering that's experienced from the inside, right? Since we're all creating our own reality, okay? Suffering is there for a reason, because we have the opposite of suffering. We have peace and wellness and joy and love and all the good things. And in the place of polarity, like the earth, rain, we have suffering as well. So the whole idea is to alleviate suffering and experience more love and joy and peace in your life experience. Right. So today we're going to talk about the topic of human suffering caused by religious and beliefs and social practices. As social beings, okay, we have certain practices linked to our religious beliefs. Religious beliefs and social practices can be sometimes contribute to human suffering when they are interpreted and used to justify discrimination, inequality, and oppression as well, right? It is important to understand between religion itself and the harmful interpretation of the religion. There's nothing wrong with religion. Religion is part of our social constructs here in this reality. However, when we begin to identify them, or these beliefs to actually cause some sorts of discrimination and inequality and injustices and oppression of other people becomes a problem. It may cause suffering. It is important to distinguish between religion itself and the harmful interpretation, right, of our religious practices. Now, every society, every group has a right to interpret their religion practices in their own way, right? So what we're talking about here is about how our personal and group practices can cause human suffering, like the oppression of women in certain religions, okay? So you have this religious belief that somehow, as in certain religions, women, for example, are under men and lesser than men, and a man has to control a woman to be able to have control over his family, over his community, over his society. Okay, so now this is what I'm talking about today. We're talking about these atrocities against women in certain religious circles. Okay, this can happen even in Christian circles, as well as Islamic or even Buddhism, anywhere else. Right? Remember that people are people, and when we start being very, very strict in our religious belief systems and interpret them in harmful ways that can harm our society, it becomes a problem. Okay, so today's topic is about that. Right now, remember that suffering is what is real in this reality, as I said, because if there's joy and love and peace, there has to be suffering. However, as humans evolve and become more intelligent and we become more aware about life and what we are doing, we're supposed to be learning to be making choices and choosing actions that are going to add peace into our realities and actually alleviate suffering. However, as we've been evolving from the beginning of time, all right, our technologies have also been evolving, our communities have been evolving, we've been evolving a lot. We have a lot of, like, for example, milestones in our societies, in the human society. The general one is identifying the importance of how to treat females in your community, because number one, they're not things, they're not subjects to be owned. They are human beings that need to have a voice and an opinion, and also have sovereignty over their lives. However, certain interpretations around certain religions, Like, for example, Islam has caused some problems in certain societies, and one of the ones that really shine out bright is Afghanistan at this moment. So the painful atrocities because of people's or a group of people's religious belief systems have caused suffering and are still causing suffering because of the fact that somehow it's like the patriarch system has caused something like an oppression over women, and women that are clearly very important parts of society. Okay, however, it's like fear of too much freedom may get them to be out of control, and it's about the power factor as well, which is also attached to this whole these certain agendas. Okay, so the abuse of oppression of women globally, because this is a global issue. Okay, the oppression of women is one of humanity's oldest and most widespread forms of inequality. Okay, it's taken from different forms of across different cultures and historical periods as well, by underlining patterns in similar, limiting women's ability to make decisions. So, okay, the underlying thing here is to limit a woman to make her own decisions, taking away her sovereignty. Okay, now she has no say over her own life, her body, her education, her work, her movements, or even her voice or her participation in society. Okay, now we call them labels or social labels or social norms. Okay, that kind of thing. So the patriarch system basically has been used and run right through the history of human beings, like over 2,000 years basically. Okay, it has its benefits and it has its negatives. Okay, but each society gets to identify how they're going to do it, right, how they're going to express it, their own interpretation. But in most cases it's linked to your cultural belief, it's linked to your religious belief as well. Okay, so these are the things you need to understand about that, right? So let me continue. So not all societies are treating women badly, even if there are patriotic societies. However, some are, because it depends on your interpretation of what your religious text teaches you, and you know what I mean, that kind of thing. So yeah, let's continue. It's important to recognize that no country has achieved perfect gender equality. I don't think that's even possible. No country has achieved perfect gender equality. But the degree of nature of discrimination is widely different. It varies in different countries, right, and states. Okay, in some places, restrictions are embedded in the law when it becomes a lawful thing. In others, it's a rise from social norms, customary practices as well, and economic equality, um, extreme interpretation of certain religions as well. Because human beings are very linked on their belief or spiritual belief, okay, or their religious belief. So we are living according to what we believe to be true according to our religious background or teachings. Freedom of self-determination. Freedom of self-determination. Why is it that the men are allowed to have that freedoms right through the history of mankind? And why are women not? And why it's still happening in certain pockets across the globe, certain countries like Afghanistan? Why is this still happening now in 2026 and we're supposed to be more advanced, more intelligent, with more technology, more woke in that sense? Why is it still happening? Because it's normally based on fear. If you let her or so-called a weaker sex be given her freedom, you're afraid that somehow she's going to be too dominant and she'll become too powerful. So in most cases, it's linked on fear as well, right? Now, freedom and self-determination. Freedom is more than absence of physical restraint, okay? It is more. For women, freedom includes the ability to choose whether and whom they're going to marry, where they're going to marry and whom they're going to marry, receive education as much as they want to, up to tertiary higher education. There should be no restriction, right? Work and earn an income if she chooses to, work and earn an income. If she wants to, should not be stopped. And then at the same time, she should not be forced to actually work and earn an income. Right. Let's continue. Own a property if she can afford to and she desires to do so. Own a property. Participate in political life if she has any interest in that type of thing in the political life. Not every woman is involved in politics. Not every woman is interested in politics. Okay. Women are not the same. We're all different. We come in different shapes and shades, and our attitudes and personalities they vary. And our needs and desires also vary as well right now. Let's continue. Express opinions without fear. Have a voice if she needs to speak. Right. Have the freedom to speak and have the space to speak, which is very important. A freedom of speech is linked to a freedom of self-determination. Right. So let's continue. Move freely without any restriction. Make decisions about her own body, right, according to the law, within the law of that state or that area of the world. Okay. Live free from violence and cohesion. All right. Live free from violence and cohesion. Now, because now we have gender-based violence, we have domestic violence, we have all those things. All right. And sometimes they can be justified by our religious belief systems or our cultures as well. Right. So let's continue here. Right. So the heart of the whole issue is, who gets to decide a woman's life? Who gets to decide a woman's life from childhood, you understand, till adulthood? Who gets to decide a woman's life? The woman herself or someone else, right? So we all know in the history of human beings that women have always been controlled, managed, taken care of by the male dominant group. Okay. Again, there's nothing wrong or right about that. It's just a system that has been running. You understand? And in certain cultures, backgrounds, and environments, it's more strict, to a point that, like, if you look at Afghanistan, what's happening now in Afghanistan with women, you understand? And Afghanistan is not the only place in the world where women are being oppressed purely because they are a woman. Not allowed to go places alone without having a male companion. It's something to do with the Islamic way, right? Not allowed to dress the way she wants to dress. She must silence her vision, her appearance, by covering her whole self. And that is all linked to, again, their religion and religious belief in Islam, right? However, to a point where even your eyes, you got a mesh around your to cover your eyes. Even your eyes must not be seen. That's a bit extreme, right? She's not supposed to speak until she's spoken to as well, because she belongs to the male dominating group, basically, right? And her freedoms are not allowed. They frowned upon, right? They frowned upon in the name of the Taliban religion, which is Islam. Remember, again, not all Islamic states treat women the same. Again, it's all about interpretation. But in Afghanistan, they're interpreting very, very extreme. It's like pressing her down on the woman very, very tightly. I'm trying to say, you're not supposed to go to school anymore because, well, of what they believe now. The Taliban has recently banned young girls from going to school up to a university level. You're supposed to stop at primary level. Okay, let's continue. Different forms of oppression. There's many different forms of oppression. Women's rights can be restricted in various ways: legally, socially, religiously. Okay, now, legally, when something's written down in law, there's nothing you can do about it because it's part of the laws of the country or the state. Unequal inheritance laws, maybe, like only men can inherit land and wealth if parents pass. Restrictions on education as well. Unequal divorce or customary rights. Limitations on employment. Only you're supposed to be how would I say, only certain jobs of men or kept for women, or women are not supposed to work at all and stay at home and be housewives. Even if she doesn't want to be a housewife, she has no choice. You understand? So let's continue. And these things have happened in the world and are currently happening in certain parts of the world. Okay. Requirements of male guardianship, as I said, in some circumstances, if you're going anywhere, you can't go alone or with other females. You have to go with a male. You understand? Social oppression. That's another way a woman can be oppressed and are oppressed in certain areas of the world. Even when laws guarantee equality, cultural expectations may discourage women from pursuing a career, owning a business, uh, uh, or deciding if she's going to get married or not, or even delaying it if she doesn't want to get married. Sometimes she feels she's too young, she's not ready, but she's forced to get married. Speaking publicly, as I said, your voice is silenced because you're just a woman. This is not a place where women must be heard. You must be silenced until somebody speaks to you. And this is happening in certain areas of the world in 2026, apparently, right? What else? Reporting abuse as well. You must not complain about your abuse. Don't talk about your abuse, because number one is going to shame the family and you're going to cause embarrassment for the family, right? So that kind of thing also happens in this reality in 2026, where a woman is abused in her own home by her husband, but she cannot say anything because if she talks, she brings shame to the family, the man's family, basically. She's married to the family. Okay. Participating in leadership as well. Okay, you're not allowed to participate in leadership. Yes, in certain countries, a woman cannot be like a social community leader. She cannot be a politician. She cannot get involved in politics. That's for men. You understand that kind of thing. You have no voice in your political environment at all, and yet you're part of the community. That's the funniest part, right? But these things are still happening in certain areas of the world. Like I mentioned, Afghanistan as one of the most extreme examples. Okay, let's continue. Religious oppression, very common, right? It is important to distinguish between the religion itself, and how religion is being teachings are being interpreted and enforced. So we're not talking against religion. Yeah, we're talking against how it is interpreted and enforced. Basically, okay. There's no wrong or bad religion. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, because on my channel, I don't speak against religions. I believe that everybody have a choice, and I believe that religion has a big role in our societies, and it has a good impact on our societies, and also a bad impact as well, like anything else, because we're living in duality. Where you find goodness, you shall find something bad. You understand, within the same practice, basically. That's how it is. Okay, let me continue. So now we're on page, so I'm reading from my notes, guys. People with what is it now? Yeah, it's 3 years. I'm on the right page. Yeah, people without the same religion often hold very different views about women's roles in society in general. I repeat that people within the same religion may hold very different views about women's roles in society. In some societies, religion is interpreted and used to justify restrictions on women's education, her dress, her mobility, or her leadership opportunities. While many believers and scholars argue that there are interpretations are not only or mostly faithfully understood or understanding of traditions as well. Okay, now we have a problem, because we have to kind of determine between our religious teachings and our traditions and our culture. So we have all these things that we need to deal with. Okay, what is religion teaching? Just what you teach, you get taught, and you also teach as well, obviously. About your spiritual belief or your religious belief, about your deity, your God, your spiritual practice, what you believe in. Okay, now normally your culture gets intertwined with that as well. your cultural practices get intertwined with your religion and your spiritual practices and stuff like that. Like when we have certain type of festivals, when do we do certain things, what type of practices do we do, how many times we pray a day, or things like Christmas in a Christian environment. We have Christmas, we have Easter, we have all these other things within the Christian religion and stuff that we practice. Okay, and those things that can also be influence our culture after a long time. Now, what is culture? Culture is practices. That's what culture is. Certain practices that we practice continuously from one generation to another becomes a culture. And cultures change. Excuse me, they don't always stay the same. However, there's ancestral culture, okay, that people still hold on to and they still practice it right through the ages, from generation to generation, right? And then there are certain people who embrace change and adapt their old traditional cultures from their ancestry to adapt it to the modern way of life. Excuse me. However, our religions don't do that. Our religions are all based on old teachings. And again, each group or offspring from a certain religion will interpret certain things in their religion in different ways. Like, for example, I'll give you an example, okay? Like the Christian religion, we have certain churches that don't believe in the how would I say now? You know that when Jesus comes and takes people, to heaven, that kind of thing. I've got the name now for some reason, but that's just one example. Not all of them believe like in tithes as well, that you must do it. It's always a choice in certain churches. In certain churches, it's not really practiced. You understand? So there's certain things like even in Islam. Not being a Muslim, I don't know much about the Islam faith, but I do know that there's Sunni Islam and there's others as well. A different type of Islamic practices. They're all Islamic, right? They all believe in Muhammad and Allah and all the other stuff, but they have certain practices that they don't practice globally or uniformly across the different sects of Islam. Okay, right? So now we know that, right? So that's what they mean by that. Like in some societies, religious interpretations are used to justify restrictions. Yes, we know about that. Okay. And basically, these restrictions can cause problems in the society and cause suffering to the people that are being restricted. And in this case, we're talking about women specifically because, again, in a patriarchic system, the man is always gold, the man is always getting the better end of the stick, and the woman doesn't because she's just a woman and she's lesser than. And in the patriotic system, the man is over the woman. He's head of the house and everything. However, if you head of the house, do you have to be an abuser? Do you have to be a tyrant in your home because you're head of the house? Do you have to be violent? Do you have to treat your woman with disrespect? You see, again, interpretation. So if your Quran says that certain thing, or your Bible says that certain thing, that you are the head of the house and stuff like that, do you have to be a tyrant? Do you have to punish the woman for being woman, for being a woman born into a woman's body? Why do you have to punish her? See, these are the things that we need to consider. It's all about interpretation. Not every Christian or Muslim abuses their woman. You understand? Not every Christian or Muslim abuses their woman. Again, it's all about interpretation and his background and his worldview and his cultural teachings as well. Because you have your religious ones, you have your cultural one, but they're kind of intertwined. You understand? But at the end of the day, what I've noticed is it's how the man was brought up. If the man was brought up in a liberal home, he's normally very liberal, even if he is Islamic. If he is brought up in a home that's loving, where you saw his father, who's a Muslim or even a Christian, treats his mother well, he'll understand this is how you treat a woman. But if he gained the opposite, whereby you saw the tyranny or the violence of his father against his woman, against his mother, sorry, because it's his father's woman, but that's his mother, that he's observing, is looking, because we learn through observation. We don't learn through what our parents say. We learn through observation. How was dad treating mom? How he's speaking to her and all those things. And I remember, now we got a mix of blend of different things. And we got our cultures, we got our religions, we have our way of life here, right? But at the same time at home, now you're seeing it out being outplayed by your parents. You're seeing how your mom interacts with your dad and how your dad interacts with your mom. That's your first teachers in your life. If you have teachers in your life that are all violent to each other, and there's a lot of disrespect and oppression within that relationship, you see it as normal because it's your first encounter of how you should react towards women. One day when you're married, you're dating, whatever story may be, even in a workplace, how you treat women, you first saw it at home. In most cases, if you are born and brought up in a background where there is a nuclear family, the normal old-fashioned family with both mother and father, right? So you learn these things. So now you're learning in your Quran, or you're learning in your Bible, in your belief system, even Hinduism as well, learning in Hindu, learning all these things. But at the most important impact you have as a small child, a growing person, a growing human, is the one you experience at home. That's the biggest part of your growth. How you see your parents play out the role of being Christian or Islamic or Hindu parents, and how they interact. You see how your father's tender and loving to your mother. You see how your mother just like treats your father like he's a king. So this is what you actually seeing as to be real to you. Okay. And now you go out there, now you're having a political system. The political system has its own laws, but in most cases now in Islamic states, the religion and the culture is linked to the political system. Okay. And depending on the leaders in that system and how they interpret that religion or that philosophy that needs to be followed, it's going to affect how the home is run as well, because laws do spill into homes as well. So these are things that you cannot really separate from each other. I think that's the reason why it gets very complex. Okay. So you might be in a home whereby there's love and kindness and everything and respect, and your mother honors your father loves your mother and honors her as his wife, and you're not a mother of his children. Now he's teaching you as a child how to treat your future wife, or how to treat women in general. So you begin to treat your sisters with love and kindness and tenderness and everything, right? And then you get married, you date, you get married, you do the same because you were taught that at home. However, your political structure can also play a role as well. What are your political leaders teaching or preaching? What type of laws are they, you know what I mean, adapting into the community? Now, in the Taliban, for example, their laws against women is about oppression. They're using their religion and how they interpreting the Islamic religion to be, where you oppress a woman. She has no freedoms at all. You don't educate her. You deny her freedom of voice and speech. You don't educate her. And on top of it, you also control what she wears and how she's going to be seen. You understand? You put this in certain Islamic cultures, you call it the abaya, where they cover the whole body. You understand? In the one they use in Taliban, it's different, I suppose, but it's all the same thing basically, just to so-called protect her from the outside world. She has to protect her identity, apparently, and that's what it's all about, apparently, right? This is what I've learned, right? That she must wear this flowing abaya. But in the Taliban region of Afghanistan, even her eyes are covered. Even her eyes are covered. She's a mesh here, right? Where she can just basically just about see where she's going, but she's covered up totally. Okay, now she's silenced. She's covered up totally. She can't go to school. She cannot work in certain jobs. She's got a lot of restrictions. Do you think your society is going to be healthy when the mother is silenced, when the mother is restricted and she cannot even move before she's given permission. What type of society are you actually developing then? Because how you treat your woman spills into how your society is gonna evolve. And I think this is what something that they're not thinking long term here. So in their minds, basically, in a very patriotic mind, it's about, okay, men would always be dominant, and men will always be above a woman. All right, now that's in the point of it being very, very extreme. I think that's the reason why, in my own personal opinion, why they're treating women in that way in that area of the world. Okay, but at the same time, it causes problems in the community. Okay, so how oppression of women can cause general human suffering in your society? Women are important parts of every community in the world. They often contribute to the family, right, economy, education, healthcare, leadership, and social development of their communities. Social development of their communities. So they play a big role. So when you begin to silence one of the most important aspects of your society, you slow down the growth and development of your society. You take them back in time instead of moving them forward. You're taking it back in time, back to old Stone Age mentality. You're not moving them forward when you are oppressing women in your society in such extreme way. Now, how oppression of women can cause human general suffering? Because if your group of women in your community or society is oppressed, it will ricochet and fall and overflow into the entire community. She's the mother. She's the one that nurtures the child. She's the one that needs to be healthy to be able to nurture the future men. You understand? She's supposed to be whole and full and healthy, to be able to nurture and help bring forth the future leaders in your reality, even if it's men leaders. Okay? Right? So, how do you expect your men to be healthy and balanced when basically you have a cultural, political, and religious system that oppresses women? That kind of thing. As a woman, maybe I'm biased, but at the end of the day, I think that a lot of these states that are actually oppressing women are not looking at the bigger picture. 100 years from now, 50 years from now, 20 years from now. You understand? They're not looking at the bigger picture. It's all about based in fear, or women are very powerful. Because in Afghanistan, there was a time apparently where women were actually given the opportunity to take part in politics, get educated and all those things, and have a voice and choose what they want to wear. There was a period of time where that was there. You understand? And I think there's certain people who actually observed and checked and saw how powerful women can be. And I think it kind of threatened the male ego. You understand? It threatened the male ego, so they decided, well, they will clamp down. And the Taliban has been in control for Afghanistan now for a second time around, apparently according to history. Right, so let's continue with the story. Women are an important part of every society, community. They often contribute to the family, to the economy, to the education, to the healthcare, to leadership and social development. Right, social development is very important in any society. All right, and communities as well. When women are severely oppressed, the effects are therefore not limited to women themselves, right? They affect the whole community, as I said earlier on. Extreme patriarchal oppression may cause suffering in several ways for the whole community. Loss of education opportunities, girls being, in most cases, in most communities, the majority, okay? It's like God is not stupid. God knows exactly what he or she is doing, because they understand that woman is the one that can makes the lineage, the group grow and continue to be there. Because women give birth to men and girls, right? We give birth to the world, basically, right? So in most communities, you find there's a big majority of women and then men, or sometimes a minority. Maybe not a very big imbalance, but in most communities, most countries, you'll find there are more women than men, because that is a natural way of Mother Gaia life causing a balance, especially in a place with a lot of wars. Now, Afghanistan that has had history of a lot of wars between America and whoever else, right? But they've been very war ridden before, a lot of war in that country. So in that case, nature will definitely bring more women. You understand? Because at the end of the day, women also die in wars. At the end of the day, men are gone. They gone to fight their wars, and then more men will die in wars and stuff like that. And then a woman must be there to carry the communities. And in most cases, the female gender is more stronger because we normally carry the whole community on our shoulders. You understand? That's how it is. It's just what it is. I'm not being biased because I'm a woman, but I'm not being biased because I'm a woman, but I understand that's how it is. You understand? Women carry a lot of the social heaviness on their shoulders, right? So, as I said, girls and women are prevented from attending school or developing a career, and a part of the population cannot reach its potential. So we have a big part of the population that needs to reach its potential, right? And however it's been oppressed. Now you'll have uneducated group of women that cannot cope in a modern world, right? All they know is just to be subservient to a man, cook and clean and stuff like that. You know, what I'm trying to say. So this is what was prevalent in the 20s and 1920s and stuff like that, right? But as time went by, women were given women liberation and freedom, and then women started getting educated and having a voice to speak, started having opportunity to vote. Like in America, it all happened, right? And then, well, other countries started adapting the same template. But then again, extreme Islamic environments have not. And instead of moving forward, they kind of move backwards, right? And the society does not develop, okay? Poverty and economic hardship is also a cause of this problem. So when you oppress women in your society, you're also causing a general poverty and economical hardship in your country or your state, preventing women from working, owning property, or controlling money, right? Or participating in political rule and political narratives in your country can also cause problems as well, right? So preventing women from working, owning property, controlling their own money, or controlling money, or helping to control money in a home, or participating in economic activities can make families more financially vulnerable, okay? Basically. Communities can also lose economic contributions women could make, right? Now, remember, in a world where everything is expensive, right? We are actually controlled by what we call the capitalist system. Okay, nothing gets cheaper every year. Things get expensive, and you're trading with these different countries because no country is an island, right? You're trading in currency, and currently it's all about the dollar. Right now, here you are in a community where there's no economic growth and poverty is increasing because your currency of your country is lesser, maybe, and maybe there are laws that are allowing a bigger part of your community not to partake in the economy, can also cause problems as well, right? So that's what I'm talking about. So it's important to understand that when a woman is oppressed in a community, it affects the whole community, not just the woman. Poor health and family well-being can also be a problem when you are oppressing a woman in a community. If women cannot make decisions about their own health and productive lives, okay, they may experience preventable illnesses and things like suffering, depression and stuff like that, right? Because when you are oppressed and then your voice is taken away, your rights are taken away, you're stripped of everything, you will be oppressed. And then, yeah, so you're not going to be healthy in the long run, and your children are not going to be healthy in the long run as well. Okay, so that's one of them. It's very important. Their children and families can be affected when mothers are unable to access necessary health care. Okay. Now remember that she's a nurturer, she's nurturing the children. If she's not given rights and oppressed, she will then be depressed herself. Okay. Now she's always sad, and when you are depressed, your immune system drops. Now remember that everything is interconnected. Your emotional state affects your physical body. So yeah, you are constantly depressed in fear, worry, stress. It affects your immune system, makes you sick. Okay. And it affects your family as well, and even the financial aspects of your family as well. Right? Violence and fear. Extreme patriarchal systems may tolerate domestic violence, forced marriage, sexual violence, and other forms of abuse, right? A community where violence is normalized can become less safe for everyone, including the male child. You understand what I'm trying to say? When violence becomes the status quo now, you are oppressing her. You're stopping her from living the way she wants to live. You are restricting her movement. You are restricting what she wears. You're controlling totally everything. And if she goes against what you are saying, you beat her physically, violently, verbally, and stuff like that. You know what I'm trying to say? You break her down. That will affect even the bystanders, the male children of that home. Now they get to see the other side of being a father, how to oppress a woman. That's what they know. And then it's also been fed by the religious and political way and laws, because when these people are in control of the country politically and have religious, extreme belief systems on how they uh, determine or what is truth in their religions, they write it down in law. Like in Afghanistan, it's basically a law for women to be covered up, for women not to go to school. That's a law. It's not something that's a social choice or whatever, or the family must determine. It's a law. And if something's written down in law, right, it affects the community in a very huge way. You understand? Yeah. So human beings have come a long way, but at the same time, we're a bit slow. We're slow in its sense. We move 2 steps forward to improve the human condition, then we move 10 steps back, right? Because of ego. Like, why would we still have wars in the world in 2026? Why? We had World War One, World War Two. Why are we still trying to solve all problems using violence? As I said, we move 2 steps forward and improve as human beings, and then we move 10 steps back because we basically still controlled by patriotic ego, a man's ego. Not to say that a woman cannot or doesn't have an ego, but at the end of the day, we're talking about what's been playing out for the last over 200 years in the human world, in the human realm called Earth. You know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. Because I understand that women also have a problem with ego, yes, and maybe women maybe will not be able to control the world better than men, but it hasn't been done, it hasn't been proven. But in the world at the moment, we've seen that a lot of violence and atrocities are being played out and chosen in this time, in the past and even now. Why are we still solving problems with violence? So I remember that it all starts in the home. It all starts in a home. And when a home has been attacked by certain belief systems that are not good for the mother, for the woman in the family, it has a ricochet effect on the whole community. Now imagine, as I mentioned earlier on, right now, violence and fear, intergenerational suffering, intergenerational suffering. Children often learn social attitudes from their families and communities, mostly from their mothers, right? Because the mother spends more time with the children, including boys. If boys grow up seeing their mother treated as an inferior, those beliefs may be passed on from one generation to another, causing generational suffering. Okay. that this can create continuing cycle of discrimination and violence of women. This is what's been happening in the past in human history. If you go right back, deep back in our history, okay, there's always been a fact that the woman is always the one being abused. No, maybe not in every country or every state or every piece of land, but at the end of the day, the patriarch system's always been running the show here, right? But apparently, I will talk about that some other time because there was something previously that was different. But for a very long time, patriarch system has been controlling everything. You understand? Because it causes an imbalance. And when you believe that somebody or something is lower or lesser than you, and you watch other people abuse that person or that being, like even an animal, you begin to see or think or believe this is true. This is how you should treat that animal or that person. You understand? Because we learn by observation. 7 years of our life, we're learning from observation at home. And that is the foundation of our life's teaching. Although you do have a chance to grow and change later in your life, but sometimes it's very difficult, especially if it's a cultural thing, it's a norm, and you want to go against the norm. Your society may push back, your family may push back as well, you understand? Excuse me? Because it's something that's been taught and seen to be normal. Loss of freedom and human dignity. Every human needs dignity, including women. Okay? Treating women as inferior beings, right, causes a problem. Treating women as inferior beings rather than equal members of society, right, damages their dignity and their freedom. It causes a problem. It damages the dignity and their freedom. Now you want to know why are some women so needy, so clingy, so toxic? Because you shouldn't get a good upbringing, you understand? Because you are the result of your upbringing, of your society. And your first society is in your home. But in most cases, your home practices something that which is accepted and approved by the general society in most cases, right? Sometimes you get some families who practice different things compared to the general community culture and belief systems. Okay, so loss of freedom, dignity, which is very important. Now you want to know why she's so needy, clingy. She doesn't talk. Self-esteem was broken. She doesn't have a good self-esteem because of the background that she's been brought up in. Okay, a society that denies basic rights to one group can develop broader culture of inequality and oppression. Okay. Slower development of the community, as I said before. Communities believe when all members can contribute, which should be the case, all members of the community should be able to contribute equally, maybe or maybe not that equally, depending on their ability as well. Okay, so a man and a woman can never be equal, and that's just what it is. And many women like myself, we don't want to be equal to a man in that sense, you understand? Because number one, we have different gifts, and I believe as a woman, I have a different gift to my husband who happens to be a man, right? However, it doesn't mean he's more superior than me. Okay, we are not equal, but doesn't mean he's more superior. There's no one more superior in my marriage and in my life and in my mind, in my relationship. And that's how I see the world, okay? Men and women have different roles to play. Okay, we can never be equal. I think that's where the problem comes in. We don't understand the concepts of what is equality. What is equality? It's like you trying to say a tall person with a lot of strength, a lot of physical muscle is equal to somebody who's shorter with less strength and physical muscle. Then you want to say they're equal. Not really, because their abilities on the physical capacity is not the same. However, that shorter person with less muscle may be more cognitively active and more stronger mentally, and more how strong, like, more, having more grit. And in a person who's stronger, got the physical strength, but they have less mental cognitive strength. You understand that kind of thing. I'm not talking about intelligence here, because intelligence is also used to discriminate against people. Use intelligence or whatever to discriminate against other people who they deem to be less intelligent, right? I'm talking about other human factors besides intelligence here. Women and men are not equal. Women have their strengths and their weaknesses, and men have their strengths and their weaknesses, right? So for me, equality has nothing to do with me saying I'm equal to a man, because I'm not. My abilities are even different to his, and even to another woman, my abilities to compared to another woman might be different. She may be somebody who is more, how would example, physically strong or mentally strong, or more physically, aesthetically, you can call it more aesthetically attractive, whatever sort it may be. But everybody has a sense of an attractiveness. Okay, so because what they say, it's about more, it's about your finesse, it's about your energy, and less about your features. You understand? It's about your finesse, about your energy, how you carry yourself, how you treat other people, how you walk into a room confidently. That's another thing. Human beings have kind of been kind of biased. We need to go back to understanding what is equality. Truly, is it really possible? Right? Are we all equal? Right? If example, black and white, black people and white people, right? White people have their own strengths, black people have their own strengths. Okay. So it's been collectively agreed upon that black people are most, especially men, more physically strong, apparently. They make better sportsmen as well. That's been something that they've been playing around with for me very, very long time. If you go back to history with Hitler and the Olympics and stuff like that, and how he was trying to prove that the Caucasian was more stronger than the black athletics people from America and stuff like that. So these are the things that we need to understand. The human being have always been trying to to say who's more unequal or weaker or stronger and stuff like that. Okay. Same as how we treat a woman. We see her as weaker because she's a female. You should not understand that she may have strengths that really outplay the male counterpart. You see. So yeah, let's go back to my topic. What is the role of women in a community? Generally, many women or women can play many roles, right? Many women play many different roles depending on what she wants, right? But we have the abilities to be maybe mothers and caregivers by choice if you want to, raising and supporting children. Men can do the same as well, right? Educators as well. We can also be both formally teachers and informal family teachers, right? Or educators, workers and entrepreneurs by choice, controlling a household and community economies, right? Healthcare providers and community lead workers or leaders helping improve people's well-being, right? Healthcare providers, leaders and decision makers, participating in governments and community organizations as well, and social movements as well, right? So women can play that role, and men can also play that role very well. Protectors of culture and knowledge, women can play that role, passing language, traditions, and values and skills between generations, like what they call the oral tradition. The oral tradition is when you speak about your culture verbally and educate the younger generation about certain cultural things. That's the verbal what you call cultures, like in the old days in the African continent, right? We didn't have books and stuff like that, so we had important people in the societies and the communities that kept the culture, right? And they taught the youngsters about the culture of what we practice. Our tribe is just the history of the tribe, the wars we won, the wars we lost, things like that. Our religious practices and everything. Even in Europe, it happened as well, right? You had those certain people, the elders, as I may call them, who actually had that oral tradition and kept the knowledge, and then they taught it, right? And certain people in certain families will be taught about the cultures, and they will be responsible for teaching the new generation as they come. Before we started writing things down and scribing things down, right? We always spoke about things. We made songs. We made like a lot of stories and songs to explain the past, how we were beaten in a certain war, how we won our, our heroes in our culture and stuff like that. It's very interesting, right? What else? The culture and the protectors of culture and knowledge, I mentioned that long before libraries and scribes and writers and authors, long before that. Citizens with equal rights who should be able to participate freely in decision making affecting their own lives and the lives of the community as well, okay? Citizens of equal rights, okay? Equal rights is being denied to certain groups of people, mainly women, and even children as well. In that sense, the way we even treat our children as humans, even in 2026, is a bit backwards. We keep them from information they should know, and sometimes we expose them to information that they are not ready to consume. Okay, and then we abuse children physically with punishments, corporal punishments, and stuff like that to try and set them straight. Without talking with them, we use violence to solve problems. If there's a problem the person caused, you then use violence. Okay. So let's continue. The conclusion here, my love, is the extreme patriarchal oppression of women can create general human suffering. And it can, and it has been doing that. I can imagine Afghanistan. Because each time the Taliban comes off and then somebody else comes in control, and then it changes, and then for a period of time they're allowed to go to school, they're allowed to dress the way they want to dress, they're given all those freedoms, and then next minute when that ends and there's another war and uprising or whatever, and the Taliban comes back into control, and then they start now implementing the extreme way of managing the society, oppressing women and giving men rights over women and all those things. So now imagine from one generation to another how it's actually affecting the society. It's keeping them from developing. It's keeping them from developing, and it's keeping them from seeing their mothers as equal to the father. You know what I'm trying to say? The mother is just as valuable as the father. Now is like getting to understand the woman. Even if I'm a woman myself, I must understand and know my place, because I'm less than a man. And in the society here, I cannot have a job. I cannot speak my truth. I must walk around never alone. I must also always have a male companion with me. I must cover myself totally, only show my eyes. That kind of thing. Don't speak until I'm spoken to. I'm not allowed to be vocal. I'm not allowed to even have ambition, because that means that I cannot not having ambition means that I cannot be what I want to be one day when I'm grown up. Because number one, I'm denied education. I can't dream. I cannot have any ambition. I'm just controlled by the males around me and the Islamic laws that actually oppress me instead of keeping me feeling safe, loved, and cherished, basically, right? So you actually miss out on that, right? So the general human suffering becomes in the community cannot be fully prosper when large parts of the population is denied freedom. As I said, in most communities, women are the large parts of the population. Education, safety, economic opportunities, and political participation is not allowed. Oppression can produce poverty. It can produce poor health, violence, fear, and discrimination. All the bad things in the human society at the moment: violence, oppression, fear, poor health, because of poverty. You understand that kind of thing. So it doesn't add value to your communities at all when you are oppressing the female counterparts of your community. It doesn't add any value at all. Okay. So today I want to end up by saying that each community and every single person in the community has a role to play. Men are important, women are important as well. I just play different roles. Okay. Men are important, women are important, they play the important roles in society. It's not about the one being more, how would I say, dominant or the one more intelligent or whatever. It's not about that. It's about the fact that women play a role in society, right? A very important one. And men also play a big role in society as well. Remember that a woman nurtures a man to become a man. And if she's not able to nurture a man to become a proper man who is upstanding, who has intelligence, he's loving, he's kind, he knows how to reason in the world, okay, because his mother was not able to teach him that, because she herself was not balanced, she's living in fear, she's been oppressed. It will affect the man because a woman brings up a boy, you understand, to become a man. So here you are in a society where you're oppressing the most important people in your society, the females. Not to say that men are not important, but women play a big role because number one, the man gets nurtured in the woman's body, right? So he gets to feed from her happiness, her sadness, her joy, everything, because everything is energy, right? So that's why I'm saying that in the same way, they think that they're actually oppressing women alone, but they're actually oppressing and stifling the growth of the whole community. You understand? So we need to think and reason as people who have intelligence and think long term. Don't think only short term. We need to think long term as well, guys, right? So as I begin to close my life, if you have not as yet, I'm Sissy, life coach, motivational speaker. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel. My channel is about spirituality, awareness, human condition as well, because I explore different topics and ideologies around what's really happening in a human environment. I talk about spirituality, the different practices, learning about different religions and and belief systems and stuff like that, right? So go ahead and consider subscribing to my channel, okay? So have a great day further and a great week coming, right? If in South Africa, tomorrow's a holiday, it's Women's Day, right? Which is wonderful. So yeah, so enjoy your holiday if you're in South Africa tomorrow and have a great week further and be kind to yourself and others. Remember, kindness goes a long way. Okay. So have a good day further and enjoy. Bye guys. See you next time on my next live.